Joining me now to discuss all of this is James Elder. He is a spokesperson for UNICEF, and I thank you for being with us so we try and get an update on the situation. And I want to ask you, it's been an incredibly tough few days, especially, as we say, for children. A lot of airstrikes, they were under communications blackout. What more are you learning about the situation?
Well, exactly that, Paula, that for now, just on 3 weeks, you've had children, 1 million children. Let's be very clear on just the enormity of number of boys and girls. You've seen a few there, more than 1 million children living in hell. But what we're seeing with the ferocity, the relentlessness of these attacks, of the bombardments, then when you hear the reports coming out from the Ministry of Health in Gaza, whilst you have 1 million children just over living in hell, you've got many thousands who are dying there. So it is impossible now to overstate the gravity of what they are enduring. You know, no water, no medicines, no ceasefire. Paula, we're hurtling towards this sort of unimaginable horrors. The difficult thing is that there is a way out. This is very, very clear, and we've been saying this from the very start, and it's actually not as complex as the rest of the world may see. It is a ceasefire, and it is to open those gates and get a massive amount of aid to boys and girls. Otherwise, we are getting reports of literally hundreds of boys and girls being killed or injured every day.
And when we talk about what the holdup may be, I mean, I had mentioned we've had President Biden, Macron is now weighing in as well, many different world leaders saying we need to have more aid. What is the holdup, and is UNICEF involved in trying to unravel what has happened there at that crossing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, this comes down to politics. Now, UNICEF we use every access point, every avenue, every leader, whether it's the most local partners on the ground in Gaza, the bravest people who are trying to keep their families safe and get some of the tiny fragments of aid that still exist to people, or as you say, the offices of world leaders. UNICEF will use every avenue we possibly can. But we see a trickle. We are seeing a couple of dozen trucks getting in. Now, UNICEF's got 14 trucks in. That's water, that's medicines, that will save children. We know that if we got another 200 trucks in, we would make a game-changing difference to those children, even allowing for bombardments that we would see no sense of abating. So it's the same message from the Secretary General, from my Executive Director of UNICEF. We need a massive increase of aid. It's just so basic. You know, you have almost now about 5% of the water system functioning. So whilst we see these graphic images, Paula, of boys and girls, you know, who have been pulled from rubble, mothers in immense amounts of grief who will wake up in grief every day because they will wake up without their little boy or girl, water now becomes a real threat to children as well. I have a colleague in Gaza, we still have many brave colleagues, and she spoke about just her 4-year-old saying, "Mummy, I just want normal water," normal being not dirty water, unsafe, that she's getting. Her other child, her 7-year-old, spoke about the trauma that she's got and that she's now, you know, she talks to her daughter, you know, scratching herself to the point of her thighs bleeding. And when you talk to the colleague about what can you do about this level of trauma that is facing every child in Gaza, she simply said, "All I focus on every day is keeping these two alive. If I can keep them alive," and I tell myself every day, "then I'll look at the trauma." That is not a normal scenario. That is not an acceptable scenario for any parent, Paula, as we all know. And it's also an avoidable scenario. And I think this is what's so heartbreaking right now.
In terms of it being an avoidable scenario, though, I mean, Israel continues to tell people, even in hospitals, people that are sheltering there with families, that they must evacuate to the south of the Gaza Strip. How worried are you in the coming hours or days that the people who need to heed that call, perhaps, who are in danger, just won't be able to?
Well, exactly. I mean, terrified, horrified as everyone is every moment of these last three weeks, whether it is the, you know, I think 20-something Israeli children who are somewhere in Gaza who need to be out immediately, who need to be released back to their families, or as you say, in hospitals. This is nonsensical to think that someone in ICU already when you've got far, far more people in desperate need of medical help than beds, or a baby in an incubator and we're running out of fuel and all the medicines can be moved somewhere. That is simply not the case. Our colleagues from WHO, the World Health Organization, said it weeks ago. That's a death sentence. So these warnings are simply not realistic. And again, as we discuss that, what that means is that if you're a mum and you saw shrapnel, remembering Paulie, I've seen what shrapnel does to a child. It's designed to rip through cement and buildings. It is devastating to a child's body. If your child survived that, and now you're just praying that they will survive the coming days, and you're told they must evacuate, and a doctor says, well, you know, I now must choose which one of these children in ICU lives or dies. This is unacceptable by any reading of international humanitarian law, and this is why UNICEF will keep using every avenue we can, whether it's the good, you know, the good officers of the highest leaders in the land, or whether it's broadcasters like yourself, to ask for those most basic things: a massive increase in aid to children and a ceasefire.
James, Elder, we'll have to leave it there for now as we continue to hope that more humanitarian aid does reach Gaza, especially for those children. Thank you.